You've got $500 million burning a hole in your pocket, and you've decided you don't want a yacht. You don't want a sports team either. Everyone owns a sports team. You want something rarer. You want a Formula One team, the pitch you've been sold. Buy your way onto the grid, watch the cars scream past a global audience of 500 million people, collect sponsorship checks from the biggest brands on the planet, and become part of the most exclusive club in sports. 10 seats at the table. Nobody's giving theirs up. Here's what nobody tells you. The team that just won the championship this year is getting paid less next year than the team that finished dead last got paid the year before. The oldest team on the grid gets a $63 million check for doing absolutely nothing, while teams that actually win races sometimes finish behind them on payday. And the entry fee alone, just to sit at this table, is $450 million. Before you've built a single car, this is the business where the math is rigged in ways that don't make sense until you see them. And once you do, you'll understand why some of the smartest billionaires on Earth have gone all in on this sport, and why others have watched it swallow their fortune whole. Let's start with the number that sounds like good news, and turns out to be the biggest trick in the entire sport. It's called the cost cap, and it has a hole in it that nobody closes on purpose. Since 2021, F1 has capped how much a team can spend building and running its car. Currently, $135 million, jumping to $215 million in 2026. Sounds like a hard ceiling, right? Everyone plays fair, everyone's budget is basically equal, except the cap has a hole in it big enough to drive a car through. Driver salaries don't count, marketing spend doesn't count, and the three highest paid people at the team, often the team principal, and top execs are exempt too. So a wealthy owner can still outspend a rival into oblivion on star power and star drivers, while technically staying under the cap the entire time. The cap doesn't stop the arms race, it just moves it somewhere the cameras don't point, and it gets stranger. Sauber, rebranded as Audi for 2026, gets its own private exemption written into the cap, an extra allowance based specifically on Swiss wage data. Why? Because staff based in Hinwil, Switzerland, are paid almost double what their UK and Italian rivals pay for the exact same job. The same $215 million doesn't buy the same team everywhere. One team's cap stretches further just because of a postcode, and that's just the spending side. Wait until you see how the money comes back in. Because the way F1 pays teams has almost nothing to do with how they finish. You'd think prize money gets handed out based on how well you race. Mostly, it does. 75% of F1's enormous prize pool is split by Constructors' Championship position, but the other 25% has almost nothing to do with this season at all. Ferrari, a team that in 2025 did not win a single race, walked away with more prize money than every other team on the grid, including the champions. $277.7 million. How? A guaranteed payment called the long-standing team bonus, roughly 5% of F1's entire prize pool, handed to Ferrari every single year for one reason. They're the only team that's raced in every F1 season since 1950, not for winning, for existing. That's a check worth more than most people will earn in 3 lifetimes. And it has nothing to do with a single lap of racing. Now watch what happens to the team that actually won. McLaren, the real 2025 champions, are about to learn their trophy doesn't pay what it used to. Their projected payout drops from roughly $165.8 million down to about $127.9 million for 2026. Not because they got worse, because Cadillac is joining the grid as an 11th team, and the same pool of money now gets split one more way. You can win the whole championship and still take home a pay cut the very next year. Which brings us to Cadillac itself, and the number that should make you sit up. To even be allowed onto the grid, Cadillac had to pay a one-time anti-dilution fee of $450 million. Split up, that's a $45 million check handed to each of the 10 existing teams before Cadillac had built a single car, hired a single driver, or turned a single lap. That's the actual cost of the club membership fee, the team. Not the factory, just the seat at the table. So far, this sounds like a sport designed entirely to protect the people already inside it. And in a lot of ways, it is. But protection isn't the same as profit. And the next part of this story is about what happens when the protection runs out. Because for most of F1's modern history, this business didn't protect anybody. It just quietly bankrupted them. As recently as 2021, just a few years before the sport became the global phenomenon it is now. Only 2 teams on the entire 10-team grid turned any profit at all, Mercedes and Red Bull, and barely $10 to $20 million each, on budgets north of $450 million each. The other 8 constructors on the grid were burning money every single season, just to be allowed to race. Some of the most famous names in motorsport were quietly operating like a business set on fire, for the privilege of being on television, and then, almost overnight, the story flipped. McLaren, a team insiders used to describe without irony as F1's classic money pit, sold a partial stake in late 2025 at a $4.1 billion valuation, the same business model that couldn't turn a profit. 4 years earlier had suddenly become one of the most valuable sports franchises on the planet. Same cars, same cost cap, same grid. What changed was Netflix, global streaming numbers, and a prize pool that's grown into the billions. The business didn't get smarter. The audience got bigger, and the money followed it in. But a valuation isn't the same as being safe. And Force India is about to prove it. In the summer of 2018, one of Formula One's best-run teams didn't die from a bad car, a crash, or a scandal. It died from a paycheck, and the person who cashed the check that killed it was sitting in the driver's seat. Force India had been one of F1's most efficient midfield teams for a decade, beating far richer rivals on a shoestring budget, season after season. From the outside, it looked stable. From the inside, it had quietly racked up almost $400 million in cumulative losses since 1991. The bills were always arriving faster than the money, and the team wasn't taken down by a rival, or a crash, or a scandal on the track. It was taken down by its own driver, Sergio Pérez, the man literally driving the car, sued the team for unpaid salary. That lawsuit became the exact legal trigger that forced Force India into administration on the eve of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Here's the twist that makes this story almost impossible to predict. That lawsuit didn't kill the team, it saved it. Because administration isn't the same as bankruptcy. It's a legal process that tries to keep a company alive while it restructures. If Perez's unpaid paycheck had instead triggered straight insolvency, the doors would have closed permanently and the assets would have been sold for parts that same week. Instead, a consortium led by billionaire Lawrence Stroll swooped in and bought the team's assets days later. But surviving came with a price nobody saw coming. The part of this story that still doesn't feel real. The team lost every single one of its 59 championship points overnight, wiped clean, because the new ownership had to legally re-enter as a brand new constructor. 10 years of on-track history gone in the paperwork. The team you knew as Force India doesn't technically exist anymore. It became Racing Point, then Aston Martin, a completely different legal entity wearing the ghost of the old one's name. That's the real lesson sitting underneath every glossy prize money headline and every billion-dollar valuation. This sport doesn't care how good your car is, how loyal your fans are, or how many races you've won. The moment the cash flow breaks, even by something as human as a paycheck arriving late, the whole operation can be gone within days. Ferrari gets paid for existing since 1950. Force India didn't get to exist at all once the bill collectors showed up. So if you're still picturing yourself owning a Formula One team, picture both versions of this story at once. Picture the version where you're Ferrari collecting a $63 million check before a single lap is driven, untouchable because of a history no rival can buy. And picture the version where you're one unpaid invoice away from losing every point your team has ever earned, watching 100 years of history dissolve into a legal filing overnight. Because in this sport, the line between those two futures isn't talent. It isn't even money. It's whether you understood, going in, that the car was never really the business. The cash flow was. If a story like Force India's, a team destroyed and reborn within the same season, surprised you, you're going to want to see what happens when we open up the next one. Because every business we take apart on this channel has a version of that exact same trapdoor hiding somewhere in the numbers. And it's rarely where you'd expect to find it. So, here's the question I actually want an answer to. If you had $500 million right now, would you spend it chasing the Ferrari story, the guaranteed protected untouchable seat at the table? Or would you take your chances, trying to build the next McLaren from nothing? Tell me which one, and tell me why. I read every single one of these, and if you want to see the next business autopsy before anyone else does, Subscribe. This channel exists to open these up, one at a time, until nothing's hidden anymore.